Hi, I'm Joan Breitbart, and I'm Zooming right now with Carmen Maloof. She's one of Physical Mind's certified Pilates teachers, and we do different interesting videos together. This time, today, Carmen's in Florida, in Tampa. We're going to talk about 80 bites, or I want to call it Pilates for the stomach, and I mean the stomach that's up here, not below the navel. So strangely, you might say, looking at Carmen, why did she get 80 bites? And she's going to tell you now why she decided to do the program. Go ahead.
Hey everyone. So 80 Bites, I've been hearing about it for a long time through my certification with PMI. And finally, I decided to take the plunge and see how trying 80 bites would work for me so that I could portray that as a testimonial to people that I'm going to be working with. And so I told Joan, I started doing it earlier this summer. I said, let me just see how this works for my body. And and Joan knows, so she can comment on my story so far, but I've been in the 80 bites program for a little while now.
Well, I think what's interesting, and this is how it's all changing, and this is all Ozempic, of course, is that it's shifted now. You know that calories, 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 that's all people thought about. And then, of course, it was carbs. And even now it's, protein. You see somebody selling something at 15 grams of protein, as if anyone would know what that is, since we don't even have the metric system here. But it's always food obsessed, right? And when you started and I talked to you, you started talking to me about food. And I said, no, we're talking about quantity here. And of course, what we know is that these drugs, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, whatever, and all the ones that are coming, and I think I told you that Eli Lilly has 9 other drugs ready to release. They're going to own this market. And that if people aren't hungry, and they're properly trained, and that's where 80 Bites comes into it, then they won't continue to overeat, right?
Right.
But you were really, I think you told me, obviously you don't need to lose weight. And I remember you saying to me something that annoyed you, even though it didn't affect your weight, was snacking, right? You talked a lot about snacking.
Right. Yep.
Tell me what that would mean.
So before I started engaging in the 80 Bites program, I would go, because I have a young child, and I would go eat some of his school snacks. I know that they're considered like not the healthier type of snacks, and I know these are trigger words that are not good in the 80 Bite sense, but I would go have a bag of Cheetos, a lot of salty snacks. Occasionally I would eat a handful of nuts. It would just be like kind of like junk food, because I thought, oh, let me just have a little snack in between because I'm hungry. I'm fidgeting, and I'm in the COVID working from home era, so I go to my my pantry and grab whatever's there. And now, now that has changed. My whole mindset has completely changed. Sorry, go ahead, Joan.
Well, I think it's snacking. This is really such a funny word, because it's now called snacking again. But for a while, the wellness world and the diet world was trying to call it grazing, right? And every sense what the diet world, let's say Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Atkins and the thousands of diets, they want people to feel they can snack, but snacking is not a good word, doesn't sound good. So grazing sounded better. Now they've switched it so that people think that they're snacking, but not really, because they're nourishing themselves. Like we have to be nourished all the time, right? And, for someone my age, and I'm 83, this snacking was something that no adult would do, which is not even, we couldn't even think about that kind of thing, because we ate meals. And I think that's what's hard about 80 Bites, right? Because it's forcing you, if you snack, not to have just the chips, but to have something else with it, like maybe peanut butter or something, and something to drink, right? A real drink,
Right.
not water, right? That's a little mini meal.
Yes. Yes, and you said water, and that's another that's been a question that I didn't understand until I started reading more about 80 Bites, which was very helpful. Um, I'm thinking water is the best drink that you're supposed to have at a meal, and you're not, right?
I mean, obviously, what it does is it washes out the flavor, right? So you're trying to maximize the flavor when you're eating, because you're not going to be
Mhm.
eating huge quantities, right? And hopefully it's
Right,
food you like and food that tastes good in your mouth, right? In your particular mouth. That's very important. That's not what some
yes,
guide tells you. It's you and your mouth and your palate.
right.
And obviously water. But it's very funny now because I saw last weekend a little kid, a toddler, like 3 year olds, carrying, it's almost as big as he, one of these little Stanley, expensive water carrier things, right? And everyone is talking about hydration, hydration. And I don't think I've ever in my lifetime, when I was a little child and growing up, that anyone ever said to me, drink water. No one, we didn't even think about drinking water, right? And
Right.
certainly we weren't hydrating ourselves. And you'd be people could be in Portland or Seattle and it's raining and they're worried about their hydration. And do you know why? Do you know why this has become so important?
No, no, I don't understand it.
It's another distraction because everything in the diet business is distracting the person from the fact that they're, overeating and they're worried about every single meal because it's all these decisions because so they can eat what they're supposed to eat now as
Oh,
opposed to what they want to eat. So it's just another thing. And water's holy, right? It's
right.
holy water. You're baptized with water. So everything about water is good. It's pure. It's
Mhm,
wonderful. It has no calories, but that's the biggest thing. It has no calories. Whereas if
mhm,
you had, remember, if someone is actually hungry when they're eating, the reason that people always had a beverage, which is not water, water's water, and beverages have a taste. They could be a diet soda, but they have a taste, and
mhm.
usually some calories, maybe. Let's say iced tea, you put in a packet of sugar or something, you are raising your blood sugar. I mean, it's helping you diminish your hunger because it immediately is absorbed as opposed to food. When you take a bite of food and chew it, it's not, operating in your stomach and
Mhm.
diminishing your hunger, right?
Right, right. And see,
So,
I didn't know all of that.
yeah, I mean, but nobody knew anything, right?
Mhm.
But it was, you ate because this is how you were trained to eat, because that's how everyone ate and no one talked about things, right?
Right,
People
exactly.
had meals, right? And snacking was only for kids who were little kids who couldn't take in enough at one sitting because of their tiny tummy.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
But have you noticed, remember I said to you, when you're out, and I know you cook mostly,
Mhm.
but you do go out, have you watched how much food a person can easily take in and eat when every restaurant there is serving maybe 50 or 60 bites for an entree, right?
Right, so that was one of the things that I kind of had an issue with as far as, like, eating out. You go and I could bring a to-go plate home after eating my fill of my plate and have, like, 3 more servings after that or something, not sushi or anything like that, but if you're going to, like, a real American style restaurant, they're overloading your plate. The plate is completely covered in food, and my mentality, my dad is from the depression era. They had to eat everything on their plate. They were people that were like starved, so they were going to eat that whole plate of food. And I grew up thinking you have to eat that whole plate of food, but you're just thinking this is so much food.
But your father wasn't served, because I'm the same age, right? Kind of
Hmm.
expression mentality is that we weren't served on an entire plate of food. That's what you have to
Right,
understand. So
right,
we were
exactly.
served maybe 25 bites,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
And there were
a lot
three
smaller.
things. A meal
Hmm.
had three parts. We would call it a main and two sides. Now, when you go
Hmm.
to these eating places, like a place like Dig or Sweet Greens, whatever, they're telling you you have two sides. They're still using that term, and a protein. And immediately I want to go crazy because people are talking about food, and mixing it up with, what food group it's in. And all of a sudden, protein is what everyone wants to have all the time, right? At the same time, people are thinking that it's better to be a vegetarian or a vegan, right? That's better for the environment.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a conflict with that. So nobody, in this area, that's why you were confused. Because
Yes.
there's no connecting the dots, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've been very misinformed, but that's why, I'm ready to learn more about it and to kind of adapt that mentality. But I feel like it's going to be better in the long run. And, we can share that with others that I'm working with, and drop those, those terms that, like, fitness fanatic, that are not great things to say, or health nut, whatever you want to call it. It's not.
Yeah.
What does that even mean anyway?
But people use it, and in many ways, they don't think of it as being, what, that's silly, or it's tacky, really. No, they think that it's great that they're, living their best life here, or they're pretending. And then you look at them and you know that they're either have an eating disorder or they're disordered eating, and usually they're huge, right? So
Right.
I mean, I date everything from 1963, and I remember that, which was, I graduated from college that year, and Weight Watchers started, and I watched this, right? And I actually watched friends of mine who, didn't know anything about calories, start to get into this. Where I think I told you, and I remember you laughing, is that I thought to myself, why should I count something I can't even see? I never saw a calorie. Maybe there's one on the floor here. Do you see any around you? Are there any calories floating around?
Maybe in my tea.
Right. So, it was like putting a common sense and laughing at it. But then, of course, it wasn't an interest. But people eventually carried these tiny calorie counters, and they would try to figure that out, right? And it's
Right.
never been something that anyone can understand, which is the difference between and portion control, which that's our attempt at branding, because I say you can't brand things that are really original, but portion control is really not 80 bites. It's not. Portion control is based on calories, and you can have, unlimited if it's, a bunch of lettuce without any dressing, right? That's Weight Watchers 200 free foods. You can eat Brussels sprouts, but you can't cook them in butter, and you can't saute them, or you can't put sauce on it. You can't do anything. It's just, who wants to eat that? Nobody. So right. But people still don't understand, even if it has very few calories, that they're stretching their stomach. That's why I'm saying this is Pilates for the stomach. Yeah.
Yeah. That concept, now it's taking a little time for me to digest it.
Well, that was a good one. Thank you.
So, been thinking about the stomach a lot, and how my body feels, and just I have to be the storyteller that explains this to other people, but I also need to use the right terminology and the right language, and make sure that it comes across. Because to me, this became like an easy concept doing the 80 bites. I was like, okay, I got it now. Like, I can do this, right? Other people can do this. It's going to work. It works. And
it worked for you, and you had only in your head things that might have been making you a little too stressed, but you still were able to cope with it, right? Because because you hadn't stretched your stomach, right? But when you look at people, and it's funny, I remember, because I just saw a friend of mine, and she claims to be 5 feet tall, but she's really 4'11". I mean, she's a half a person. She weighs about 95 pounds, and we were eating at a restaurant in Soho here, about a year ago. And of course, we split an appetizer, we split an entree, we split a dessert, and we each had a drink. And 2 tables away were young people, she's my age, in their 30s. And they were both not obese, but getting there, right? Bulked up. They didn't know that, because, nobody knows what they should weigh anymore because the BMI is so fraudulent. But each one of them had first a cocktail, then they had wine, a bottle of wine. Each had an appetizer. Some of the appetizers in this restaurant are 18 bites, and that's an appetizer, right? Forget the meal. Then each had the meal, then they had an extra side, each had a dessert, and we watched that, and I remember Harriet saying to me, how can they eat that much? Now,
Wow.
but that would not occur to anyone else unless they knew the stomach and 80 bites. How can they get that quantity in their bodies?
You know, and to not have some sense of satisfaction some point during the meal,
and feel
not just
full, right?
Slow it down, right.
No, it was, this is a restaurant, this is what you order, and you eat it, and the fact that they physically can eat it is what we're talking about now, really. And that's how the hormones that people now know are the issue got messed up, got unbalanced by this constant overloading. And then that's, and then people have what you know from your clients and family and everything, they're hungry and really hungry and hungry all the time.
And the whole thing with the hormones, that actually was a special trigger for me, because I'm like thinking it's not really about filling yourself up. It's about what are you regulating inside your body? What are you signaling to your brain? Like the part in 80 Bites about going to brush your teeth to signal to your brain that you're done eating. You are not, you're done with that stage. You can let your brain know, okay, that's it, we're done. Yeah. So that to me was important. You're sending a signal to your brain. You're not just eating for, to have your mouth doing something. It's like you're telling your body what it needs. And I thought that was important, learning about hormones and the fullness and what your belly is actually trying to do there. It's more than just food going in.
Yeah, what you were saying is so true. It reminded me of something. My family likes Japanese food, and my son really loves the Japanese food culture. And in Japan, their obesity is 3%, maybe between 3 and 4%. This is a food culture. I mean, people are out at restaurants all the time, and they love to eat and try things and whatever. Same as here, people want to eat. Eating is enjoyable. But our obesity is 60%. So you think, well, that's impossible. How can they do that? And it's because really what we know is, yes, regulating the components of a meal in terms of having more variety and enjoying yourself helps. But a lot of the obesity is just binging. And that's the silent part, right? That the public pride of eating.
Yeah, wow.
And people used to be, and that's what you never, so your little snacking thing you may have felt like, oh, I don't want to do this, why am I doing this? But you weren't binging. So that's why you never had a weight problem.
Right.
That's what it really is. And that's a big guilt, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's so much mental anguish over food and what you're putting in. Even big, small, whatever size you are, you're constantly, am I allowed to eat this? Do I have permission to do this to myself?
Am I being good? Am I being good?
That's right.
The expression that when you have 1 billion people starving right now, and you're talking about are you good? It's for me, I really rebel against that whole thing. And I'm confident now with these drugs that everything will shift. And I think what people will see is if they start training themselves to eat less and then they have the drug to initiate it, they will be able to go off it, right? The drug is like a starter, right? And then your body starts to be trained, and hormones balance, and then we're back to where it used to be. And that's great. But I'm so happy, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, that you did it not needing it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy I did. I think that it's on my mind every day, but like I said, there's not an effort involved. I think, if that's what people can understand, is that it's really not, your brain just has to know what it's doing, not
Right.
your stomach, your brain needs to understand it.
And I
These
think what we
concepts.
now know because of Pilates and the success of Pilates is that the brain is what's moving the body, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so any kind of mindless exercise, you know, music playing at 90 decibels, whatever, some high thing, is not really working the body efficiently or properly, right? And that's coming
Mm-hmm.
out more, you know, that's great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're not going to go back. Well, maybe we will go backwards, and people will be, you know, not focusing on this. At least hopefully, they'll be relaxed and enjoying the fact, right?
Yeah, that would be ideal if we could just like, you know, make it like this Japanese cultural. And I was just in Japan, and they're giving you these petite little plates and exotic things that you get to taste, and it's fun,
Delicious.
it's delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You saw that, and you saw the people, right?
Oh
The
yeah, they're
difference
fan.
between the
Yeah, yeah, they fit on the trains easily. Taking up just one seat.
Oh dear. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you
You're
for doing
welcome.
these videos with some
Oh,
of
you're
our
welcome.
products that people are getting to like them really.
Oh, great. It's my
You know,
pleasure.
but
Yeah.
there's again, it's people to, I don't know, use common sense, of course, and start to relax and
Hmm.
know that this so-called diet and exercise revolution has not given us any peace of mind for sure, which is
Exactly.
what people want. So I'm going to talk to you
Yeah.
again soon, and thank you
Okay.
so much.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
Joan. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.